Hey guys, on today's show, I want to tackle another question from a viewer that made a comment on a video that I had recently. And this one's concerning making contacts on VHF either through a repeater or through Simplex. So that's right here, right now on Ham Radio for Non-Techies. Hey guys, welcome back to Ham Radio for Non-Techies, where we try to simplify the ham radio hobby to get you to study for and pass your exams and get you on the air as quickly as possible. As I said, today is going to be a response to a comment that I got on one of my recent shows, and the viewer had a couple questions about, getting on using Simplex, using repeaters. He's having a really hard time getting it. So let's pop over to my desktop real quick and check out what he said here. He says, hey, Scott, I just got my call sign and first radio yesterday. It's a Yaesu FT-65, and I also got a Diamond SRJ-77CA to go with it. It works, I know that, but I'm having an awfully hard time working other stations or repeaters. I went to an open, elevated area about 15 minutes from my apartment last night and caught the tail ends of some of the nets and a few conversations on some repeaters. But when I tried to call CQ, nobody indicated that they could hear me. Am I doing something wrong, including being rude? Any help would be appreciated. So a couple things here. First of all, congratulations for getting your call sign. Welcome to the hobby, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. Do not let this first issue. You're going to have hurdles throughout your ham radio usage, so just get used to it. You'll find ways around it. But definitely congratulations for passing. The Yaesu FT-65 is a great little handheld. The Diamond SRJ-77CA is a great upgrade for that radio as well. So you're saying you're having a hard time working other stations or repeaters, and you went to open elevated area, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I got some decent information here. So what I want to do is I want to first tackle what you've got in gear. So let's pop back over to my desktop. Your Yaesu FT-65, okay, dual band HT, and looks like it does anywhere from 0.5 watt to 5 watts. So 5 watts the max power on that, and everything else looks good. It does, like I said, it does 144 and 430, or 2 meter and 440. The antenna you've got here, the dual band HT SRJ-77CA. Okay, that's the SMA version. I went and got a different one with mine. I got the same type of antenna, but I got with the BNC connector, so I bought an adapter to screw into the SMA connector on my radio to preserve that and keep that going a little longer. If you're constantly removing and tightening down antennas on an SMA connector, they can wear out over time, so it might not be a bad idea down the road. You've got what you got, but down the road, maybe try to see if you can get something that has a BNC adapter for it. Okay, so this also looks like relative gain, and this is 6 dB of gain. So okay, you got a decent set. It's definitely an upgrade from what you got with the radio, that what came with the radio. So that's a good thing. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and set up a presentation for you guys, and I just want to kind of show you what you can do to solve this problem. So once again, we're going to pop over to desktop. We got a quick presentation, not going to be a really long video today. I think I can wrap this up pretty quickly, but there's a couple things that you have to kind of consider and think about as far as making contacts on VHF and UHF, and whether you're using a repeater versus Simplex. So popping back over to my desktop once more, I made this little presentation and basically making contacts on VHF, UHF, repeaters versus Simplex. So, okay, so working with repeaters, if you look on the image on the right side here, a repeater, basically you have your radio, you send a transmission into the repeater, and the repeater then sends that back out all around the area, and other people are able to receive it, and it actually amplifies your signal and stuff like that. So that's basically how it would work. And repeaters are generally up very, very high up. I know the one we have here is up about 800 feet, and it's up on a huge tower. So as I said here, repeaters are usually high up on a tower or a hill or something along those lines. Usually going to be in a higher area. When working with repeaters, you can't just plug and play. You can't just turn on a radio, go to the frequency, hit a repeater, and it just happens to work. Most repeaters are going to have what's called a PL tone and an offset of either plus or negative. So you need to know what your repeater is set up for in order to get that and program that into your radio, as well as the frequency, and then the repeater will be able to hear you. The other question I had for you here is, how active is the repeater near you? And this goes for anybody. If you have repeaters nearby, just having them there. I mean, we got tons of repeaters here in my town, but only 2 or 3 of them get used that I know of. So just because you have a repeater doesn't necessarily mean that there are people actively utilizing it and using it. So how active is that repeater near you? Is the repeater run by a local club? Does your, like my club here, we have a repeater that one of our members generously donated or lets us use, and the entire club uses that as our main primary way of communicating with one another on that particular repeater. Also, you can also reach out much further when conditions are right and depending on the power of the repeater. I think, you know, again, it goes back to height, power, there's a lot of different factors, but the main thing you got to probably look for as far as your situation is, check out what the settings are to actually hit your repeater. Once those are programmed into your radio, you should have no problem. Then we can move on to the next part of that problem is, are people not hearing you or just not responding to you? So that's the basics of working with a repeater. You got to have PL tones. You got to set those settings up. And I'll show you guys the resources at the end of this presentation of where to go to get that exact information for you. Working with Simplex is a completely different animal. Simplex is literally line of sight. It's, you know, radio to radio. No, there's no middleman. There's no repeater in the middle of it. There's nothing amplifying your signal. It's wherever radio antenna and power and height you've got versus whoever you're trying to reach, whoever reaches you. How much power are you running? Well, on the HTs, you're usually running about 5 watts. I've seen some that claim to be 8 watts and so on, but generally, let's just go with the general, it's 5 watts. 5 watts is not a heck of a lot of power, but it's still effective. You can still make contacts with that. What type of antenna are you using, and how high is your antenna? That can be a big thing. You know, the higher the better with an antenna, and the better the antenna you have, the more gain of an antenna you have, the better off you're going to be. And of course, you have, again, propagation conditions. So with this, let me go back and say something else here. I help run a Simplex network here in town, and we get on once a month. We do a propagation test to see who can hear who. And the whole idea behind that test is so that you can see your performance. We have all kinds of data that we collect during the propagation test, because when we call out your name or when it's your turn to talk, you'll speak for 15 seconds. And during that time, the other people that are tending that net that evening can go onto a special spreadsheet and they can rate how they hear you based on the RST system. So that goes from 0 to 5. And we rate them, so we compile that data each time somebody talks, and we go on to the next person. Now, the idea behind that is when we get done, we go back and look at all this data, and it lets you know how good or bad your equipment is. If you're reaching everybody and you're getting 5s across the board, then you're fantastic. Rock and roll, better, you know, good for you, right? But if you're not, if you're having issues, if you're trying to reach out to a certain area and they're just not hearing you in a certain area of town, then there are adjustments you need to make. So we always recommend that, and these are mainly, we're talking about like base station type VHF, UHF rigs. We're not talking about using HTs here, but the same principle still applies. In our situation, you know, we want you to have an antenna that's up at least 25 feet, if it's possible. If you live in an HOA, you're probably SOL, and that's, you know, that's the way it is. But we can find ways to get your height elevated. As far as power goes, 5 watts is okay, but 50 watts or 80 watts is a heck of a lot better, right? And the other thing is going to be, you know, propagation, the conditions of propagation that evening. If you have different things that cause propagation to maybe help you to reach out further. And again, we're going to show this. I've got a cool little thing for you guys to a tool you can use that will help you determine what propagation conditions are like in your area. But you know, that's basically it. We want to make sure you have your antennas up high, a good quality antenna, and lots of power. Those are the 3 main factors that are going to determine how somebody hears you, or if somebody hears you. Same thing with an HT. You can actually hook up your HT to a bigger, better antenna, and have it up somewhere nice and high. But you know, if it's not that convenient and you want to keep it very portable, mobile, and handheld, then what you've got now is probably going to be okay. So let's move on to the next section here. The resources I want to give you guys, one is Repeater Book. And if you're not sure what the settings are for your repeater, and we're gonna go to Repeater Book. I'm gonna give you a little demo of that. You go to repeaterbook.com, and there's the actual link. The links for everything here will be down below this video. So check for that. But Repeater Book, you go there, you fill out some information on there, and you hit the enter button. And what it'll do is it'll search out repeaters based on the criteria that you put into the form that they've got on the site. And that'll show you what repeaters are there. So I would probably first maybe go tune into those repeaters, see if there's any activity on them. If there is, then mark those repeaters down, get the settings for them, and program those into your radio. That way, next time if there's a conversation, you want to maybe initiate a conversation, you can put, call out and do your call sign, and maybe somebody will get back to you. The other thing here, and there's a picture down below, is a VHF live propagation map. And this thing changes. We're going to go to this one as well. It's the aprs.menolink.org. Really cool little resource if you kind of want to see and pay attention to what's going on in your area as far as propagation for VHF. This is a cool resource. So with that being said, guys, I want to get out of here, and we're going to go to repeaterbook.com. So in Repeater Book, if you click right here, it says try the new proximity search for North American repeaters. If you click that, that'll open up a page with a little tiny form, and you can put in a landmark, city and state, or zip code. So for me, I'm just going to put in a zip code, and I want to see all repeaters within 25 miles. I'm only interested in 2 meters, and I want FM. You have a whole bunch of other options here with DMR, D-Star, Fusion, Wires X, All-Star, a lot of stuff. But if you're just looking for a simple 2-meter repeater, FM, 2 meters, a distance of 25 miles or maybe 50 miles, depending on your situation, and a zip code, and you should be able to pull up the repeaters in your area. This is going to take a second to do a little search, and here we go. All right, so if I look at this, see, I got a lot of repeaters around here. And I don't know how many of these are actually active, but I know the one that gets used most often is this one right here. This is the main repeater for my area. And if you notice on here, it has an offset of negative 6 megahertz. The PL tone is 167.9. And that's the base, that's the main information you need is right here. You need to know what the frequency is of the repeater. You know what the offset is, which would be positive or negative, and 600 megahertz or 6 megahertz is usually the standard. And then your PL tone, you see the PL tones change, and these will determine whether your radio is able to hit the repeater and whether the repeater is able to talk back to you, and you guys can communicate. So check these things on any repeater you're trying to communicate on, and you'll do just fine. So I hope that helps out a little bit. Now, as far as programming your radio, every radio programs differently, but they're kind of all the same. You just got to look in your manual, find out what the PL tone setting is called on yours. I know on the Wushuns they're different than what the Baofangs would say, and what the Yaesus and the ICOMs. So just play with your radio, figure it out. If you don't find it, search YouTube. Everybody and their mother has a video on something on how to program any radio that's out there. I guarantee it. So give that a shot. The next thing I wanted to, the last and final thing I wanted to show here was the VHF Propagation Map. And this is live right now. It's 10:22 a.m. on Friday, August whatever the heck the date is, August the 5th. This is a live propagation map. So you can see that right now propagation conditions for me here in Houston are really, really good. It's even better up towards the Midwest here. So, you got all kinds of different stuff here. It kind of shows you what the propagation, where you could possibly make a contact with somebody based upon the information I gave you before. Of course, you're going to have, a good antenna, lots of power, and height. You have those things, you can probably go ahead and make a decent contact. You might be able to call out somebody on Simplex on 146.52 and maybe get somebody out there to talk to you. But that is a cool resource to have. It's free to use. You can look at it from all around the world. I believe you can bring the map up and you can look up, all kinds of places. It'll show you the propagation in different areas of the world. Again, that's another cool resource to use and find out. If that thing's all in the red like that, you might have a really good chance to reach somebody. You might be able to reach somebody. Like if I'm here in Houston, there's a chance I could reach somebody out here 300, 400, 500 miles away from me if the conditions are favorable. So try it out. It doesn't hurt. Okay. So enough of the presentation stuff. So going back to his question here, you were also saying, now I was trying to tackle the initial things that I would think about. If you're not making a contact, are you hitting the repeater at all? Is the repeater able to hear you? That goes into settings of how you got your thing, how you got your radio set up, what kind of gear you're using. You're using if you're using a HT with that antenna on a repeater, you should have no problem reaching people, depending upon the distance between you and the repeater. With my situation, my repeater is about 6 miles, maybe 5 miles from here. So I actually turn all my power down to the lowest setting I can get it on, because otherwise I'd just be blasting that repeater. So it's not really necessary. Okay, so you asked here also, you got to the tail end of some nets and a few conversations on some repeaters, but when you tried to call CQ, nobody indicated they could hear you. Okay, so first of all, on a repeater, you generally don't call CQ. On a repeater, you can simply just pick up your radio and just say, hey, this is KI5MPL. Can I get a radio check? Or this is KI5MPL. Can I make a contact? Or, and it's something along those lines. Give out your call sign and ask a question, or KI5MPL signal check. If somebody comes back to you, sometimes that can initiate a conversation. And then you now have your first ham buddy, and you can maybe get information from them. If they've been on the repeater for a while, they can let you know if it's an active repeater and if, stuff like that. So start off with the simple stuff. On Simplex, however, and I know there's going to be differing opinions, and that's fine. Everybody can have their opinion. On Simplex, you can call CQ. Usually CQ, I generally call CQ like on HF, but Simplex, I guess you could probably do that as well. You could go, CQ, CQ. This is Kilo India 5 November Papa Lima calling CQ on 2 meter Simplex. Is anybody out there? And see if somebody responds. If there's somebody listening out there, there's a good chance they'll respond back to you. Like I said, some people they frown on the idea of calling CQ on Simplex, but I don't see the harm in it. And, the idea is to get out there and make a contact and get in touch with somebody, not only to test your equipment, but to see if you can just do it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. However, if you're listening to people and you come up on a conversation and you hear people talking, don't interrupt them. Okay, that would be a rude situation to interrupt somebody's conversation. If it's a conversation where you have something to say, where you can contribute to it and add an opinion to it or add a comment to it, wait for a break, and you can either come in and say comment and let go, or say KI5MPL comment and let go. If they want to let you talk, they'll say go ahead comment or go ahead KI5MPL. Whatever they're going to say, they'll indicate to you that it's okay for you to now transmit and speak and share in the conversation. And most of the time that's going to be the case. You'll get people like, oh, hey, yeah, what's the comment? Because you might have information that they don't know about. So again, that is one way to do this, and one way to reach out to other people. Don't get discouraged about it. You might get some people, like I said, you might get some people out there that are going to get irritated, or, for lack of a better term, salty with you about calling CQ on Simplex. And you know what? Just blow it off. Don't let it ruin your day. You're trying to do what you can. You're a new ham. There's no reason why you shouldn't give it a shot. And you're going to start learning more stuff as you get more involved in ham radio. You're going to find new things you like. And if this is where you want to start, I think you're on the right track. You got decent gear. We just got to figure. I don't know where you're located, or so I don't know exactly what to tell you about your specific situation. You could be 35 miles from the repeater, in which case it's probably gonna be a little bit more difficult for you to hit the repeater from where you are with an HT on 5 watts. Whereas if you had a little bit bigger radio, a little bit more power, say 50 watts, maybe a bigger antenna like a Diamond or a Comet, that would probably really reach out and touch that repeater. So, ham radio is all part of experimentation. You got to kind of play with what you got and see what works. And take that data, and that will let you determine if you need to upgrade or what changes you need to make to get the results you want. So that's pretty much it. I don't have a whole lot more here for that. But I hope that this helped answer the question a little bit. Keep in mind, you know, Simplex is line of sight, repeater's not. Repeater's a little bit easier to get into if you have the proper programming. Simplex is just Simplex, you know, and keep your squelch off. If you're on Simplex, that's the other thing. If you're using Simplex, keep your squelch off. On a repeater, it's okay to have that on there. It's, you know, have a little bit of squelch just to keep it quiet, so you're not having constant static ringing in your ears. But on Simplex, keep your squelch off and just, you know, get out there and make those contacts. So anyway, I wish you really good luck on that. Again, thanks for the comment or the question, and congratulations again on getting your call sign, and welcome to the ham radio. Anyway, guys, give me a thumbs up if you like this video. If you're a first-timer here, please consider subscribing. So that way you can be notified when I do new videos. Click on that little bell. And don't forget, if you guys want to support the channel, I've got a Patreon group you can join. Links are down below. I've also got my Ham Radio for Non-Techies gear shop. All kinds of cool things, from mugs, T-shirts, aprons, all kinds of stuff. So whatever you want to get, it's all there. But I appreciate you guys coming out today. Hope this wasn't a too long-winded show. But I wanted to tackle this and get this topic nailed down. I try to answer you guys' questions when you send them over to me. So with that, guys, have a great day. This is Ham Radio for Non-Techies. Have a safe weekend, and we are clear.